Hi everyone, to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making Fanouropita, also known as Saint Fanurios cake. It's made every year on August 27th to celebrate Saint Fanurios, Ayos Fanurios. It's also known as the cake for lost things, and it's delicious. It's a vegan cake that doesn't have any eggs in it, obviously, or any dairy, but it does have the warm spices of cinnamon and cloves, and then you can put anything you want in it, like dried fruit or even chocolate. We're going to be putting walnuts and raisins in it, but we're going to go over the substitutes as we move through the recipe. Let's get started. So I have a 10-inch round baking pan that I've lined with parchment paper. I'm just going to prepare it by spraying some avocado oil in here. You can also brush it with olive oil. Put the parchment paper in there so the cake comes out easily, and I'll even spray the parchment paper a little bit. The pan is now prepared, so I'm going to begin by getting the dry ingredients ready. I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 410 grams, and 2 teaspoons or 10 grams of baking powder. And I'm going to add the spices. So ground cinnamon, 1 heaping teaspoon. I always go heavy with cinnamon because I love it. Half a teaspoon of cloves. I don't go heavy on cloves because it becomes bitter if you add too much. But cloves and cinnamon give it that baklava flavor. The zest of 2 clementines or 1 orange. And I'm just going to whisk that all together before I whisk the wet ingredients together. The best thing about this recipe, other than it tastes delicious, is you don't need a mixer to do this. It all comes together in a big bowl by hand in just a few minutes. In the big bowl, I'm going to add olive oil. So we need 3/4 cup of your favorite light vegetable oil. I use a light olive oil, not an extra virgin cold pressed, because that would leave too much of an olive flavor. We want a milder oil, so use whatever oil you love and trust. Then 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. You can put a little less if you want it less sweet. Whisk that all up. And then I have 1.25 cups of orange juice. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of baking soda to the juice, and it's gonna froth up, but it's also gonna dissolve in here, so when we mix it to the cake, you won't get any of that bitterness that's usually in baking soda. It's gonna help keep the cake nice and soft. A teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, not traditional, but I always add it. And then go ahead and add the dry ingredients. Whisk it up until the flour is absorbed and the mixture is smooth, but don't overmix. Oh, it smells so good already. That's it, the batter is ready. At this point, you can bake it as is, but I'm adding 1/2 cup of raisins, 1/2 cup of ground walnuts, and I put a couple teaspoons of flour in here so that way these don't sink to the bottom of the cake. You can use your favorite nuts or dried fruit, cranberries, pecans, almonds, dried cherries, dates, figs, whatever you like, or you can just leave the nuts and the raisins out and add some chocolate and just fold that in. That wasn't even 5 minutes. Then just pour the batter into the prepared pan. And just smooth everything out so it bakes evenly. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to bake on the center rack for about 55 minutes to an hour and 5 minutes. Keep an eye on it. At 55 minutes, check it. It should spring back when you touch it, or a toothpick that's inserted into the center of the cake should come out clean or with a few crumbs attached. That's how you know it's ready. Once it comes out of the oven, run a knife around the edges to loosen it and release it from the pan. Then let it sit in the pan for about 15-20 minutes or until it cools to room temperature, and then it's going to be ready to transfer it onto your serving platter. You can serve it as is, or you can dust some powdered sugar on top, also known as confectioner sugar. Make some coffee, and then we're going to do the taste test. So my cake was ready in exactly 55 minutes. I let it cool and all that good stuff. And if you want to put a nice little pretty pattern on top with powdered sugar, if you have a stencil of a doily or any kind of stencil that you like, you put it on top. I used one of my actual doilies. I just put them on top and needed to be washed anyway. And then I dusted some powdered sugar on top just so you can get a pretty pattern. That's just something extra. They do this a lot in Greece, so I thought it would be really pretty to do it. But you can leave it plain. You can leave the sugar out because it is sweet enough. It just adds a little hint of sweetness. Time for the taste test. It's nice and cool already. This is perfect. I think that you're going to be making this throughout the fall. It has all those delicious flavors of the orange, the warm cinnamon, the cloves. It tastes delicious. The raisins in there are nice and chewy and sweet. I love the little crunch from the walnuts. I think you guys are gonna really love this one. The exact measurements are on the website, www.dimitrasdishes.com. Let me know in the comment section if you have any recipe requests. I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, yes.